I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful and stylish hanging basket. These are really great to weave. If you're brand new to weaving, it's a really good introduction to basket weaving. If you've started weaving and you're not far on your journey, it's a really good top-up basket. You'll be using a technique that we use in lots of different baskets, so it's a good one to practice on. It's not too big, it doesn't take too long to make. It doesn't use too much material, and it looks really good. They've got multiple different uses. They're really nice as bird feeders. Birds can actually go inside them, which is nice. They're really nice with hanging plants draping down from them if you want them for your house plants. You can use them as seasonal baskets as well. You can put spring bulbs in them. You can put autumnal things in them. I teach this a lot as a course. I've been teaching it for a long time. So some of my students keep trinkets in them. So if they go on walks and they collect shells or pebbles or things that are precious to them, but they're small and they don't really have anywhere to put them, they're great for things like that as well. You can hang them from a window, you can hang them from a wall, you can hang them from a bookshelf, and they're just really pretty. I especially like them because I get to use some basic geometry in them, which is really simple to do, but it looks really effective. There's only a few things that you need. A strong pair of secateurs. You don't need really heavy ones. These are actually really lightweight. They're just very sharp. Sharp's important when you're working with willow. The willow that I'm going to use is a variety called black mole. Its Latin name is Salix triandra. I'm using 5 foot. You can use other willows as well. You can use stripped willow, you can use white willow or buff willow. The advantages of using those is they don't take very long to soak. So my 5 foot willow with the bark on has taken about 5 days to soak. And that might be different depending on where you live. I know that in North America, for example, it can take double the amount of time. The advantage of using willow without the bark on is that it generally only takes a couple of hours to prepare, so you can use it much quicker. You can use other materials as well. If you don't have willow available to you, you could use dogwoods or cornice. I think this structure works better with a woody material rather than a soft material, but you can experiment. I've got some organic dupe rope going through the centre. So I've got some string here, some rope. Again, you can use whatever you wanted. You could use reused fibres, reused cotton that you'd cut into strips and then twined. You can literally use whatever you want, but it needs something that you can hang. Frame, I'm going to use a wooden board, which I have here, that has holes in it already. But you don't have to use this. I want these sessions to be as usable as possible for you, as user-friendly as possible. So if you don't have a board that you can drill holes into, you can use other things. This is a garden sieve. There's no reason why you can't use that. Because of the nature of the way that we're going to weave, we're going to have a border on the front and the bottom. Whatever you're using needs to be deep enough that your rods are going to go quite a way so that you've got enough space at the bottom to weave another border. So I've got a little waste paper bin here. The holes within this gardening sieve, which was really cheap, are ample big enough to put the rods through that. So you can use that. You can use a cardboard box as well. So if I was to use something like this, this isn't deep enough to be able to do another border once I'd finished the weave. So you might want to work out a way of doing something like that with it. Drawing a circle on it, maybe using a dinner plate or something that you can draw a circle around, and then just making marks where you want the holes to be. It would be probably useful to cover this in packing tape, which would reinforce the cardboard so that when you put the willow rods through it, it's less likely to kind of tear a little bit and the rods to move. So that would just make it a little bit stronger. But I'm going to show you in one of my wooden boards. So we'll get rid of these for now. Get rid of the rope for now. So that's my frame. I've made lots of these and I know that that's a good distance. So in my frame, I have 17 holes. It doesn't matter whether you have an even or an odd number of holes. That doesn't actually matter. It's the distance between the holes that matter. So on mine, looking at it, the distance between my holes are about 3 centimetres. Before I start, I'm just cutting off the thick ends of the willow. It's called the butt. Just so that they've got nice straight cuts. The willow that I'm using is farmed willow, so it's cut with a machine, and sometimes it can have little splits going up the end. So I'm just cutting them so that they're all nice, and it allows me just to check that there's nothing wrong with them. I've already pre-selected these rods, so they're a similar thickness to each other. And they're not too bad lengthwise. That one's a little bit shorter, but they don't need to be exactly the same length for this project. Similar thickness is good enough. Once I'm happy with them, I'm going to put my rods through the frame. Oops, I've lost one. They'll move around when you put them in, so don't panic. We can sort that out afterwards. Now, at the moment, you can see at the bottom, the stakes are coming out and they're coming in. I'm going to make sure when I weave that they're straight, and that will set them straight at the bottom. So weaving's incredibly strong. If I tell the weave what I want the structure to do, it'll stay there. So don't worry at the moment if they're all doing different things. If some of them are too close, some of them are too far, some of them are scooping in, some of them are scooping out. We'll sort that out with the weave. I've already pre-prepared some willow. So this is the same variety of willow, but this is thinner. So it's from the 5 foot bundle again, but when it's bought commercially willow, when we say 5 foot, we mean 5 foot down to 4 foot. So some of these are going to be smaller. Some of them are going to be taller. Yep, they're pretty similar. And I'm going to choose another 3. So I'm going to show you today a weave called a 3-rod wale. A 3-rod wale is a really important weave. It's used in lots and lots of baskets. In fact, I should go and get a basket to show you. So this is one of my foraging baskets. You can always see a 3-rod wale in a basket because you'll see 3 thick ends, 3 butts in each consecutive hole. So there's a 3-rod wale here, there's a 3-rod wale here. If I turn it around, there'll be one here and here on the other side. A 3-rod wale is what I would call a locking weave. It's a really strong interconnected weave. So we'll be working with 3 rods at the same time, and each rod just does one weave at a time. And as it weaves, it locks the other 2 weaves in place, so we can set these stakes where we want them to with the weave, and they will stay there. I could work with just one set of 3. So I could work with this set. I could start here and weave around, but by the time I get to sort of here, this material is going to be a lot thicker than the material I started off with, which means that my basket's not going to be the same height on either side. It also means that this side of the basket is going to be a lot stronger than this side of the basket. So I can chase. I can set off a set of 3 here, and then as I get over to this side, I can set off another set of 3 here. Because the tips are so thin and so weak, I'm just going to cut them a bit, which just makes them a bit stronger to start. I'm going to pop the tips into each consecutive new gap. So 1, 2, 3. I'm holding them with my left hand and all the material's coming out to my right. I'm then going to take the left hand rod of the 3, or you can say I've got 3 rods. I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take number 1, the left rod. It's going to go in the gap that number 3, or the right hand rod, is coming out of. It's just going behind one stake and then it's coming back out again. So that means that it's coming out in the immediate gap after number 3. that rod's done its weave. So I'm going to take the left one again, or number 1. It's going to go in the gap where number 3 is coming out, just behind one stake and back out. At the moment, I'm not really trying to tell my stakes very much because I'm working with tips and they're not very strong. But as soon as they start to feel like they've got some strength, I'm going to really tell my stakes where I want them to be. So back to the weave, I'm going to take number 1. It's going to go in the gap where number 3 is coming out. It goes behind one stake and out the next gap. So it always has to come out the next gap. If you feel like you're getting confused and you don't know where you're going, talk to yourself before you do it. Talking to yourself as a weaver is really important. So I know I've got 3 rods. I know that when I weave, it's only going to go behind one stake, and I know it has to come out the next gap. So I can visually see and I can use my hand to tell me where I'm going before I do the weave. So the weave is number 1, or the left, is going to go on top of number 3, or the right hand one. It just goes behind one stake and then it comes out. So it comes out the next available gap. I'm going to leave those there a minute because I can see from the other side I'm almost at halfway. And I'm going to get my other 3 rods and I'm going to put those in opposite the rods that I started. So 1, 2, 3. Once they're in, it's the left rod, or number 1, goes on top of number 3. So it has to go in the gap where the 3rd rod's coming out, and then it just goes behind one stake and back out. Other things to note as I'm weaving is how I'm weaving. So I'm not going all the way to my butt, which is the thick end, and trying to weave with that, because that is really difficult to not get the willow to kink, and I know what I'm doing. So that was not a nice flowing movement. I'll show you again. So I'm not going all the way to the butt and trying to weave that in because there's a lot going on there. Oops, and it's popped out. So just pop it back in again. So I'm not going all the way to there and trying to bring it out because it's cumbersome and horrible and it doesn't want to do it. What will end up happening, especially if you're not used to weaving, is you'll kink it like that. Once you've kinked it, if you kink in the wrong place, that's not useful. That's not doing anything helpful, and it's lost all its strength past the kink. So instead of it having that lovely flowing movement that I showed you with the first set, it's now trying to do something else. So I'll just do my weave. So this is the left one. It's going in the gap where the right one's coming out and then back out. It's the left one of the 3, number 1. I'm using my left hand to keep the weave really low, and I'm just guiding it in. I'm just using this part of the willow, and then when it comes out, I'm gently guiding it out so I don't get kinks where I don't want them. I'm turning my frame around constantly as I go. It's the left, number 1. It's got to go in the gap that number 3 is coming out of, just behind one stake and then out the next gap. And as my material's now starting to get thicker, I'm setting my stakes so that they're straight. So it's the left one. This is the one that I deliberately kinked. I'm guiding it through, setting it nicely, turning my frame around as I go, using my left hand to keep the weave low. So where I've already woven, I'm keeping it as low as possible. The only bit coming up is the bit that I'm still to weave with. So it's going to go on top of the right one and out the next gap. I've come back to my original beginning. So I'm just going to carry on weaving on top of the layer underneath it. I've almost caught up with my other set of 3. So with the set that I'm weaving with, I can stop anytime I like. I just need to make sure that I don't weave over them, because if I weave over them and then lost them, I'm not going to be able to weave with them anymore. So that I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to stop with these and I'm going to come on to the other set. So the weave, it's the left rod of the 3, has to go in the gap that the right one's coming out of, just behind one stake and back out. The actual weave that I'm doing is in front of 2, behind 1. I teach a lot and I've been teaching for a really long time. I don't let my students count the actual weave that they're doing because they start to choose the wrong stake. And with any kind of weaving, as soon as you do a weave differently, you've changed the whole pattern. And if you're not used to weaving, you will get lost, you'll get confused. But also, you're not doing a 3-rod wale, you'll be doing something else. So the weave is in front of 2, behind 1. But much more importantly for you to understand, if you're new to weaving, is this is a locking weave. So when I take the left one, or number 1 of the 3, before I do the weave, in the gap that this one's coming out of, the other 2 weavers are on top of it. When this rod does its weave, it goes on top of the other 2, but importantly, it has to go in where the last one's coming out. So I'm working with 3, so it has to go in the gap where number 3 is coming out. It just goes behind 1 stake and then back out. So each rod, every time it weaves, is starting off underneath the other 2, and then it's trapping the other 2 in when it does its weave. So each rod is taking it in turns to be at the bottom and then to be at the top. And as my material is now getting thicker, I'm able to really start telling the stakes I want them to be straight. So using your left hand is really important, just to set the stake nice and straight. And I'll do that as I do the weave. There's no point telling it once you've done the weave, because the weave's already set it. So make sure as you go along that as you're weaving, you're setting your stakes so that they're straight and they don't have any imperfections. Okay, I've almost caught up with the other set again. So I'm going to leave these. I'm going to move over onto the other set again. Now, as my material that I'm weaving with is starting to get thicker as I get closer to the butt, I'm just taking more time to go slow and just to set my stakes where I want them to be. It's a general rule in basket weaving that your stake material needs to be stronger than your weaving material. So if you're weaving and the material you're working with, this is the same material as this. If it starts to be the similar thickness, this is too thick. If you're working with a different material and it feels like it's putting the stakes under too much pressure, it's getting too strong. So that's the point where you would change them over. I can get one more weave with this one. I can see you looking across. So when I finish these 2 sets, they need to finish opposite each other, because when I replace the material, we want them to be the same thickness all the way around the basket. So I'm going to leave that set there because this one isn't long enough to do another weave. And then I'm going to weave with this set until they're opposite, I think about there. I now need 6 new rods.